People say money changes everything. But what I witnessed 6 months ago proved that sometimes wealth reveals the true character hidden beneath. I am Margaret Rose Chen, 71 years old, and this is not a story about money or inheritance. This is about for wealthy women who shocked everyone, including me, when they discovered my granddaughter Emma's secret. What they did next wasn't what anyone expected. Before I reveal what happened, please subscribe and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. Because some truths are so powerful, they need to be shared across the world. My story begins in the summer of 2019, in the coastal town of Belhaven, California. Back then, life was simpler for our family, though we didn't have much. I'm Margaret Rose Chen, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm the matriarch of what became a rather unusual family. My late husband, Thomas Chen, was a fisherman who worked the waters off Belhaven for 40 years. We raised 4 sons in a modest 3-bedroom house on Maple Street, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew each other's business and borrowed cups of sugar without asking. Thomas passed away in 2015 from lung cancer. Those were dark days, watching the strongest man I knew waste away to nothing. But he left me with something precious beyond measure, our 4 boys, Daniel, Michael, Robert, and Christopher. Each one different as night and day, but all carrying their father's good heart. Daniel, my eldest, was always the ambitious one. Even as a child, he'd spend hours building elaborate structures with blocks, planning cities on paper. He became an architect and married Victoria Ashford in 2005. Victoria came from old money, the kind of family that had streets named after them. Her father owned half the commercial real estate in San Francisco. Victoria was elegant, educated at prestigious schools, spoke 3 languages, and honestly, I never thought she'd give my Daniel a second look. Michael, my second son, had his father's love for the sea, but his own entrepreneurial spirit. He started a marine technology company that developed navigation systems for ships. In 2008, he married Sophia Lin, daughter of a tech mogul from Silicon Valley. Sophia had a PhD in computer science and more patents to her name than I could count. She was brilliant, driven, and came from wealth that made Victoria's family look modest. Robert, my 3rd boy, was the artistic soul of the family. He became a successful commercial photographer, traveling the world shooting for major magazines. In 2011, he married Isabella Monroe, whose family owned a chain of luxury hotels across the West Coast. Isabella herself was a fashion designer with boutiques in Los Angeles and New York. She moved in circles I could only see in magazines. Christopher, my youngest, surprised us all by becoming a lawyer. Corporate law, the kind that deals with mergers and acquisitions for Fortune 500 companies. In 2014, he married Olivia Hartford, whose family had made their fortune in pharmaceuticals 3 generations ago. Olivia herself sat on the boards of several major companies and charitable foundations. So there I was, Margaret Rose Chen, widow of a fisherman, living in my modest house in Belhaven, with 4 sons who had all married into extraordinary wealth. Our family gatherings were something to behold. I'd prepare my simple meals: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, while my daughters-in-law would arrive in luxury cars, wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly pension. But here's what surprised everyone: they were all genuinely kind to me. Victoria would bring me books she thought I'd enjoy. Sophia helped me set up a computer so I could video chat with the family. Isabella always complimented my cooking and asked for recipes. Olivia made sure I had the best doctors when my arthritis started acting up. They weren't pretending. These were real gestures of affection and respect. My sons had chosen well, not just women of wealth, but women of character. However, there was one member of our family who lived a completely different reality. My granddaughter, Emma. Emma is my son Daniel's daughter from his first marriage before Victoria. Daniel had married young, right out of college, to a woman named Sarah. It didn't last. They divorced when Emma was just 3 years old. Sarah struggled with addiction and eventually lost custody. Daniel raised Emma as a single father until he met Victoria. Victoria tried, she really did, to build a relationship with Emma, but there was always this invisible wall between them. Emma felt like an outsider in her father's new, wealthy life. When Daniel and Victoria had 2 sons of their own, that feeling only intensified. Emma watched her half-brothers grow up with every advantage. Private schools, summer camps in Europe, college funds that could buy houses. While she felt like the reminder of her father's past mistake. At 18, Emma made a decision that broke my heart. She moved out, determined to make it on her own without any help from her father's wealth. She got a job waitressing at a diner in Belhaven, rented a tiny studio apartment, and cut off almost all contact with Daniel and Victoria. She'd visit me, though, every Sunday afternoon, and we'd sit on my porch drinking sweet tea and talking about life. Emma was 23 when this story really begins. It was a Tuesday in March 2024, one of those beautiful California spring days where the ocean breeze carries the scent of salt and possibility. Emma came to visit me, and I knew immediately something was wrong. She had that look, the one I'd seen on her face as a little girl when she was trying not to cry. "Grandma Maggie," she said, sitting down heavily in the wicker chair on my porch. "I need to tell you something, and I need you not to tell Dad or anyone else yet." My heart sank. Those words never preceded good news. "Sweetheart, what is it?" Emma took a deep breath and placed her hand on her stomach. "I'm pregnant." For months along, I won't lie, my first reaction was shock. Then came the questions. "The father. He's gone," Emma said quietly. "Jake, we were together for a year. When I told him about the baby 2 weeks ago, he left. Just packed up and disappeared. I haven't heard from him since." I reached over and took her hand. It was trembling. "Emma, honey, you need to tell your father. He'll help you. Victoria will help you." "No." Emma's voice was sharp, then softened. "Grandma, please. I don't want their charity. I don't want them swooping in to save poor Emma again. I can do this on my own. I just needed to tell someone, and you're the only one who doesn't make me feel like a failure." Over the next few weeks, I watched Emma try to maintain her independence. She was still working at the diner, picking up extra shifts, saving every penny. But I could see the toll it was taking. She was exhausted, morning sickness was brutal, and the reality of raising a child alone on a waitress salary was beginning to sink in. I wanted to help, but my own resources were limited. I offered her my spare bedroom, which she accepted with reluctance. At least this way, I could make sure she was eating properly and getting some rest. But I worried constantly. Medical care, baby supplies, time off from work for the birth. Emma was facing a mountain she couldn't climb alone. The situation couldn't stay secret forever. Our family had a tradition of gathering at my house for Sunday dinner once a month. In May, it was our scheduled gathering. Emma had planned to stay in her room, avoiding everyone. But fate, or perhaps divine intervention, had other plans. Victoria arrived early, as she always did, to help me prepare the meal. She was in the kitchen making her famous tiramisu when she noticed Emma's prenatal vitamins on the counter. I'd left them out by accident when I was organizing my own medications. "Maggie," Victoria said slowly, holding up the bottle. "Are these yours?" Before I could answer, Emma walked into the kitchen. She'd forgotten her phone and was coming to retrieve it. She froze when she saw Victoria holding the vitamins. The silence stretched like taffy. Then Victoria's eyes widened as understanding dawned. She looked from the vitamins to Emma's face, then down to Emma's midsection, which was just beginning to show if you knew to look for it. "Emma," Victoria breathed. "Are you pregnant?" Emma's face crumbled. All her determination to stay strong, to handle this alone, collapsed in that moment. She started crying, the kind of crying that comes from deep exhaustion and fear and hormones all mixed together. Victoria did something I didn't expect. She set down the vitamins, crossed the kitchen, and pulled Emma into a hug. Not a polite, distant hug, but the kind of embrace a mother gives her child. Emma resisted at first, then melted into it, sobbing on Victoria's shoulder. "It's okay," Victoria murmured. "It's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out." By the time the rest of the family arrived, Emma's secret was out. Daniel's reaction was complicated: shock, hurt that she hadn't told him, anger at the father who had abandoned her, but overwhelmingly, concern for his daughter. My other sons and their wives gathered in my small living room as Emma, with Victoria's hand holding hers, explained her situation. What happened next was not what anyone expected, least of all me. Victoria spoke first. "Emma needs proper prenatal care. I'm calling Dr. Morrison tomorrow. She's the best OB-GYN in San Francisco, and she owes me a favor." Sophia immediately pulled out her phone. "I'm setting up a trust fund for the baby. Education, healthcare, whatever is needed." Isabella stood up, pacing as she always did when she was thinking. "My hotel has corporate apartments. Emma, you can stay in one. It's fully furnished, safe neighborhood, close to good hospitals." Olivia, who had been quiet until then, said firmly, "I'm arranging a meeting with my family." Foundation. We fund programs for single mothers. Emma will have access to child care support, job training if she wants it, everything she needs. Emma looked overwhelmed. "I can't accept all this. I told Grandma I wanted to do this on my own." Victoria squeezed her hand. "Emma, being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means being wise enough to accept help when you need it. Besides, you're not asking for charity. You're family. This is what family does." But then something unexpected happened. What started as generous offers of help turned into something else entirely. My four daughters-in-law, these wealthy, successful women, began competing for who could do the most for Emma. At first, I thought it was heartwarming. Within a week, however, it became clear this was about something deeper than generosity. Victoria had Emma moved into the penthouse suite of Isabella's hotel, the one reserved for VIP guests, then got into an argument with Isabella about who had suggested it first. Sophia set up not just a trust fund, but an entire financial portfolio for the baby, complete with investment advisors, which prompted Olivia to establish a parallel foundation specifically for Emma and the child. The competition escalated daily. I visited Emma at the hotel apartment and found it filled with gifts. Designer maternity clothes from Isabella, a state-of-the-art baby monitoring system from Sophia, a collection of rare parenting books from Victoria, a membership to an exclusive birthing center from Olivia. Emma sat in the middle of this abundance, looking more stressed than she had when she was alone and struggling. "Grandma Maggie," she said when we were alone, "what's happening? Why are they all acting like this?" I didn't have an answer then, but I was determined to find out. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I called all four of my daughters-in-law and asked them to meet me at my house, without their husbands. The next morning, they all arrived, clearly curious about this unusual request. I made tea, set out cookies, and sat them down in my living room. "Ladies," I said, "I need to understand what's going on. Emma is grateful for your help, truly. But this competition, what is it really about?" They exchanged glances. Finally, Victoria spoke. "Maggie, can I be honest?" "I wish you would." Victoria took a deep breath. "I failed Emma. For 16 years, I've been in her life, and I never made her feel truly part of our family. She's always seen herself as the outsider, the daughter from Daniel's past. When I saw her pregnant and alone, it broke my heart. This is my chance to show her that she belongs, that she matters." Sophia nodded. "I see myself in Emma. My parents were wealthy, yes, but they were also absent. Money doesn't equal love. When I see Emma trying to do everything alone, I see the girl I was, proving I didn't need anyone. I want to show her that accepting help isn't weakness. Isabella leaned forward. My mother was a single parent before she married my stepfather. I grew up watching her struggle. She was too proud to ask for help, even when we were evicted twice. Emma reminds me of her. I can provide what my mother never had. Olivia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, I can't have children. Medical condition, discovered after I married Christopher. We've looked into adoption, surrogacy, everything. Nothing has worked out. When I see Emma, this young woman about to become a mother, I see a chance to be part of something I thought I'd never experience. The room fell silent. These four women, who seemed to have everything, each carried their own wounds, their own regrets, their own longings. Emma's situation had touched something deep in each of them, and they were competing not out of vanity, but out of a desperate need to heal themselves by helping her. Ladies, I said gently, Emma doesn't need for competing mothers. She needs for women working together to support her. Your gifts are generous, but what she needs most is to know she's not alone, without feeling smothered. Victoria wiped her eyes. You're right. We've been so focused on what we can give that we haven't asked what she actually needs, so let's ask her. Sophia said that afternoon, all five of us sat down with Emma. We asked her what would actually help. Her answers surprised us. Yes, she needed medical care and a safe place to live. But more than that, she needed time to adjust, time to prepare, time to not feel pressured to make decisions immediately. She needed to continue working because it gave her a sense of purpose and independence. She needed family meals and ordinary conversations that weren't about the baby or money. She needed to feel normal. We created what we called Emma's Village. Each daughter-in-law took responsibility for one area, not competing but coordinating. Victoria handled medical care, making sure Emma had the best doctors, but also making sure Emma felt comfortable asking questions and making her own decisions. Sophia managed finances, setting up accounts, but teaching Emma about budgeting and planning so she felt empowered. Not dependent. Isabella provided housing, but instead of the penthouse suite. She helped Emma find a modest two-bedroom apartment in a regular building, something Emma could eventually afford on her own with the job training Olivia arranged. Olivia connected Emma with programs for single mothers, not as a beneficiary but as a participant, where Emma could meet other women in similar situations and build a support network. The most remarkable change, however, was in how they spent time with Emma. Every Tuesday evening, one of them would come over for what they called ordinary time, no talk of money or plans, just cooking dinner together, watching movies, playing cards. Victoria taught Emma to make tiramisu. Sophia introduced her to meditation apps for stress. Isabella went through Emma's closet, helping her develop a personal style that didn't cost a fortune. Olivia brought her collection of children's books, and they'd read them together, imagining reading them to Emma's baby. My sons watched this transformation with amazement. Daniel especially seemed moved by Victoria's dedication. I never knew how much he cared, he told me one evening. I thought she just tolerated Emma because Emma was my daughter. But this is real, son, I said. Your wife has been trying to love Emma for 16 years. Emma just wasn't ready to let her. Sometimes the student has to be ready for the lesson. As Emma's pregnancy progressed, something beautiful unfolded. The competition between my daughters-in-law transformed into collaboration, and that collaboration deepened into genuine friendship. These four women, from different backgrounds and different social circles, bonded over their shared mission to support Emma. They started having lunch together, not to discuss Emma, but just to talk. They discovered they actually enjoyed each other's company. In August, Emma went into labor 3 weeks early. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was at the grocery store when I got Victoria's call. By the time I arrived at the hospital, all four daughters-in-law were already there. Having dropped everything to support Emma, Daniel and my other sons were stuck in traffic from various work obligations. But these for women had made Emma their priority. I found them in the waiting room, taking turns going in to check on Emma, who had requested only female family members during labor. When I went in to see her, Emma was between contractions, exhausted but smiling. "Grandma, they're all here. All 4 of them. Can you believe it?" "I can, sweetheart. They love you." "I know," Emma said, and tears rolled down her face. "I finally understand that they really do." Emma's daughter, Grace Margaret Chen, was born at 7:41 that evening, weighing 6 pounds, 4 ounces. She was perfect. Tiny fingers, rosebud mouth, a tuft of dark hair. When the nurse brought her out wrapped in a pink blanket, my 4 daughters-in-law gathered around me, all of us crying happy tears. Victoria whispered, "She's beautiful." Emma did so well, Sophia said, "Look at those little hands." "She's going to do amazing things." Isabella laughed through her tears. "She has Emma's nose." "Definitely." Olivia just stared at the baby with such longing and love on her face that my heart ached for her. When they finally brought Grace to Emma's room, we all filed in. Emma looked exhausted but radiant. Daniel had finally arrived and was sitting beside her, holding her hand. My other sons crowded in with their wives. It was a full room, but it felt right. "This was family. I want to thank you all," Emma said, her voice hoarse from labor. "Especially Victoria, Sophia, Isabella, and Olivia. You've given me so much more than things. You've given me confidence, support, and love. You've shown me what family really means. I'm sorry I pushed you away for so long." Victoria moved closer and gently touched Grace's tiny hand. "Emma, we're sorry we didn't try harder to show you that you belonged. But we have the rest of our lives to get it right." The months following Grace's birth were transformative for our entire family. Emma stayed in her apartment, but she was never alone. My daughters-in-law had created a rotation schedule, not to overwhelm her, but to ensure she always had help if she needed it. They'd stop by with groceries, hold Grace while Emma showered or napped, or just sit with her during those long newborn nights when having another adult present made all the difference. But they did something else that showed true wisdom. They stepped back when Emma needed space. They respected her growing confidence as a mother. They asked permission before offering advice. They celebrated her successes without diminishing her challenges. They treated her not as a charity case, but as a capable woman who sometimes needed support, just like all mothers do. One evening in October, Emma hosted what she called a gratitude dinner at her apartment. She'd spent all day cooking, using recipes from Victoria, techniques from me, and creativity from Isabella. She'd set the table with care, using mismatched dishes she'd collected from thrift stores, but arranged beautifully. She'd even made place cards for everyone. When we all arrived, Victoria, Sophia, Isabella, Olivia, Daniel, my other sons, and me, we found Emma glowing with pride. Grace was asleep in her bassinet, and soft music played in the background. Emma had prepared a feast on her modest budget, and it was perfect precisely because she'd done it herself. After dinner, Emma stood up, holding a glass of sparkling cider. "I want to say something. 6 months ago, I was terrified. I was pregnant, alone, and convinced I had to handle everything by myself because asking for help meant admitting failure. I was so wrong." She looked at each of my daughters-in-law in turn. "Victoria, you taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. You chose to love me even when I made that hard. Sophia, you showed me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You taught me to plan for the future while living in the present. Isabella, you demonstrated that style and grace aren't about money, they're about confidence and creativity. You helped me see my own worth. Olivia, you shared your vulnerability with me, and that gave me permission to be vulnerable too. You showed me that we all have wounds, and healing happens in community. Emma's voice broke. You all fought to help me, and in doing so, you taught me that I'm worth fighting for. My daughter Grace will grow up knowing she's surrounded by strong, generous women who show love through action. Thank you. There wasn't a dry eye in that small apartment. Even my sons, who rarely showed deep emotion, were wiping their faces. As for my daughters-in-law, they were holding hands, united in their love for this young woman who had brought them together in unexpected ways. Later that night, after everyone had left and I was helping Emma clean up, she said, "Grandma, I need to tell you something. I've been offered a position at the community center, running their parent support programs. It's because of the connections Olivia helped me make, but I got the job on my own merit. It pays better than the diner, has benefits, and I can bring Grace with me. That's wonderful, sweetheart. There's more. I've been talking to Dad, really talking, for the first time in years. And Victoria and we're building something real." She asked if she could be called Grandma Vicky by Grace, not to replace anyone, but just to be part of Grace's village. I said yes. I hugged her tight. "Your father chose well when he married Victoria. It just took time for you both to see it. Grandma, what made you call that meeting back in May? When you got all four of them together and asked what was really going on?" I thought about that question. "Sweetheart, I've lived 71 years. I've learned that when people act out of character, it's usually because something deep is driving them. Those four women were competing, yes, but not out of vanity or one-upmanship. They were each trying to heal something broken inside themselves by helping you. Once they understood that about each other, the competition became cooperation. You're wise, Grandma." I laughed. "I'm old. Sometimes it amounts to the same thing." As I drove home that night, I reflected on how radically our family had changed in just 6 months. Emma had gone from isolated and struggling to supported and thriving. My 4 daughters-in-law had gone from cordial family connections to genuine friends. My sons had learned that their wives had depths they hadn't fully appreciated. And I had witnessed something I never expected to see: wealth used not as power or status, but as a tool for genuine good. The following months brought more changes. Emma excelled at her new job, discovering she had a gift for empowering other young mothers. Grace grew from a tiny newborn to a chunky, happy baby who was adored by everyone. My daughters-in-law continued their Tuesday evening rotations, but now they often all showed up together, turning it into a weekly gathering that included me and often spilled over into Wednesday morning. One such Tuesday in December, we were all at Emma's apartment. Grace was 4 months old, gurgling happily while being passed from arms to arms. We'd just finished dinner when Victoria said, "I have something to share with all of you." We all turned to look at her. She seemed nervous, which was unusual for Victoria, who normally exuded confidence. "Daniel and I have been talking, and we've made a decision. We're setting up a foundation, the Emma Grace Foundation, to support young single mothers in situations similar to what Emma faced. Not just with money, but with mentorship, job training, childcare support, everything Emma's village provided for Emma." Emma's mouth dropped open. "You're naming it after me and Grace." Victoria smiled. "You inspired it. Your courage, your determination to maintain your independence while accepting help, your willingness to forgive and build relationships, all of that showed us what's possible. We want to help other young women have the same support." Sophia jumped in. "My company is providing the technology infrastructure, apps for connecting mothers with resources, virtual support groups, everything," Isabella added. "My hotels are partnering to provide temporary housing for mothers in crisis situations. Not luxury suites, but safe, clean, affordable apartments," Olivia finished. "And my family's foundation is providing the initial funding and handling the non-profit paperwork. But Emma, we want you to be on the board. Your voice, your experience, that's what will keep this authentic." Emma was crying again, but this time they were tears of joy mixed with disbelief. "I don't know what to say. This is too much. It's not too much," I said, speaking up for the first time. "Emma, 6 months ago, you were in crisis. You needed help but were too proud to ask. These women saw themselves in you, each in different ways. By accepting their help, you didn't just save yourself, you saved them too. You gave them purpose, brought them together, showed them that wealth is only valuable when it serves love. This foundation is the natural result of the village you helped create," the Emma Grace Foundation launched 3 months later. In March 2025, the opening ceremony was held at one of Isabella's hotels, but not in the grand ballroom. Instead, they used a conference room they'd converted into a welcoming space for mothers and babies, with comfortable chairs, play areas, and private rooms for nursing or just taking a break. The decor was beautiful but approachable. Thanks to Isabella's design eye and Emma's insistence on functionality over luxury. Local media covered the event, drawn by the involvement of prominent wealthy families. But the real story wasn't about money, it was about transformation. During her speech, Emma spoke honestly about her journey, from fear and isolation to support and community. She didn't sugarcoat the challenges of single motherhood, but she emphasized that with the right support, young mothers could not just survive but thrive. Victoria, Sophia, Isabella, and Olivia each spoke briefly, explaining their motivation for the foundation. They were candid about their own struggles. Victoria's regret about failing to connect with Emma earlier. Sophia's childhood loneliness despite wealth. Isabella's memories of her mother's struggles. Olivia's grief over infertility. Their vulnerability was powerful. It made clear that this wasn't rich women dispensing charity from above. This was wounded people reaching down to help others climb up, all while healing themselves in the process. The foundation's first year exceeded all expectations. They assisted over 200 young mothers, providing not just resources but community. Emma worked part-time for the foundation while continuing her job at the community center, finding that the two roles complemented each other beautifully. Grace, now a toddler, became something of a mascot, often present at foundation events, a living reminder of why the work mattered. But perhaps the most unexpected outcome was how the foundation changed my daughters-in-law themselves. Working together on something meaningful, something beyond their comfortable lives, they discovered strengths they didn't know they had. Victoria, always elegant and controlled, found she had a gift for connecting with struggling young mothers who were intimidated by authority figures. Sophia, brilliant with numbers and systems, discovered she loved teaching financial literacy to women who'd never had anyone explain money to them. Isabella, creative and stylish, started a program teaching mothers how to dress professionally on a thrift store budget, building confidence along with wardrobes. Olivia, who'd always kept her infertility private, began speaking publicly about it, becoming an advocate for women struggling with reproductive issues, while supporting those who were becoming mothers. They also became inseparable friends. It wasn't uncommon to see all four of them having lunch together, attending each other's events, or showing up as a united front at family gatherings. My sons joked that they'd created a wives' mafia, but I could see they were pleased. Their marriages had deepened because their wives had found fulfillment beyond their roles as spouses. As for Emma, watching her grow over that year was like watching a flower bloom in time-lapse. The frightened, defensive young woman who'd shown up on my porch pregnant and alone had become a confident, compassionate leader. She'd reconciled fully with her father, built a genuine relationship with Victoria, and accepted her place as a valued member of our family. She even started dating again, though she was cautious, having learned from her experience with Jake. She told me, "Grandma, I'm in no rush. Grace and I are happy. If the right man comes along, wonderful. If not, we're fine. I'm not afraid of being alone anymore because I know I'm never really alone." now. As I sit on my porch on this beautiful spring afternoon in 2025, reflecting on everything that's happened in the past year, I'm filled with gratitude. Grace is playing in the yard, walking now and getting into everything as toddlers do. Emma is inside preparing lunch. In an hour, Victoria, Sophia, Isabella, and Olivia will arrive for our weekly Tuesday gathering, which we moved to Wednesday, and then decided we loved so much we added Thursday to. My modest house on Maple Street has become the heart of our family in ways I never imagined. Yes, my son's married into wealth, into families with resources I could never provide. But what I've learned is that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or property holdings. True wealth is measured in relationships, in the strength of bonds between people who choose to love and support each other. Those for daughters-in-law, who seemed to have everything, discovered they needed something money couldn't buy: purpose, connection, and the joy of making a real difference in someone's life. Emma, who thought she had nothing, discovered she had something invaluable: the ability to bring people together, to inspire transformation, to create community. As for me, I've learned that you're never too old to be surprised by life. At 71, I've witnessed a miracle, not the supernatural kind, but the human kind. I've watched pride transform into humility, isolation into community, competition into collaboration, and wealth into love. The story of my four-rich daughters-in-law fighting to care for my poor granddaughter isn't really about rich versus poor. It's about women recognizing themselves in each other, about the power of vulnerability, about healing that happens when we stop hiding our wounds and start sharing them. It's about family, the kind you're born into and the kind you choose. Emma and Grace are the obvious beneficiaries of this transformation, but they're not the only ones who gained. Victoria, Sophia, Isabella, and Olivia each found something they were missing: purpose, healing, friendship, and connection to something larger than themselves. My sons learned to see their wives in a new light, appreciating depths they hadn't fully recognized. And I got to witness love in action, proving that sometimes the best stories aren't about grand gestures or dramatic moments, but about ordinary people making extraordinary choices to show up for each other day after day. The Emma Grace Foundation continues to grow, helping more families every month. But its greatest success isn't measured in numbers or metrics. It's measured in women like Emma who discover they're stronger than they knew, in babies like Grace who grow up surrounded by love and support, and in communities of women who refuse to let each other face hardship alone. So to answer the question implied in this story's title, why did four-rich daughters-in-law fight to care for my poor granddaughter? Because they recognized that wealth without purpose is empty, that privilege carries responsibility, and that sometimes the person you're helping is actually helping you. They fought for Emma because in saving her, they saved themselves, and that, my friends, is the truth I've learned in my 71 years. We're all connected. Rich and poor, young and old, blood family and chosen family. When one of us rises, we all rise. When one of us hurts, we all hurt. And when we choose to show up for each other, especially across the boundaries that usually divide us, miracles happen. To all the young women out there struggling as Emma once struggled, you are not alone. Ask for help. Accept support. Let people love you. Your pride might tell you that you must do everything yourself, but your heart knows better. We all need each other. To all the women blessed with resources as my daughters-in-law are, look around. Who needs your help? Not your charity, but your genuine engagement. Who can you empower? What can you build that will outlast you? Your wealth is a tool. Use it to build bridges, not walls. To all the grandmothers, mothers, and matriarchs holding families together, keep watching. Keep loving. Keep gently steering your people toward each other. Sometimes all it takes is asking the right question at the right moment to transform competition into collaboration. And to everyone listening to this story, Remember that the best transformations happen not through dramatic gestures, but through consistent, daily choices to show up, to care, to build community. Emma's village wasn't created overnight. It was built through Tuesday dinners, Sunday visits, late-night phone calls, and countless small moments of choosing connection over convenience. As the sun sets on this spring day, I can hear laughter from my kitchen. Emma's voice mixing with Victoria's, Sophia's, Isabella's, and Olivia's. I can hear Grace's delighted squeals as she's undoubtedly being spoiled by her grandmas. My house, small and modest as it is, contains more wealth than any mansion, the wealth of family, of love freely given and gratefully received, of second chances and new beginnings. People often ask me if I ever imagined my life would turn out this way, with such an unusual, blended family. The truth is, I never imagined any of this. But that's the beauty of life. It surprises you. It challenges your assumptions. It shows you that the divisions you thought were fixed, rich and poor, stepmother and stepdaughter, strangers and family, are actually permeable. Love, real love, flows through those boundaries like water through sand, reshaping everything it touches. So yes, my 4 daughters-in-law were rich, and yes, my granddaughter was poor. But in fighting to care for her, they discovered that neither wealth nor poverty defines us. What defines us is how we treat each other in moments of need, how we respond when someone is vulnerable, how we choose connection over isolation, collaboration over competition, love over fear. That's the story I wanted to tell. Not a fairy tale where everyone lives happily ever after, but a true story where people make mistakes, experience pain, face challenges, and choose daily to show up for each other anyway. Because that's what real life looks like: messy, complicated, and beautiful. Thank you for listening to Nana Margaret's story. If this message resonated with you, I hope you'll share it with others who might need to hear it. Subscribe to Nana's Memory Lane and leave a comment.